Hello again. This is a continuation to my previous video on the DEC Rainbow 100, where at the end of it I explained my troubles with the RX50 floppy drive, or more specifically the inability to low-level format any floppies. Since I'm not able to format and create more floppies, I'm also not able to boot from anything else than this DOS 2.11 floppy that I have here. A couple of people have suggested me that I just create more floppies using a PC and a 1.2 megabyte floppy drive, because that's something that is possible to do. But I don't have any 1.2 megabyte drives, and honestly the hardware I have here should be perfectly capable of formatting floppies on its own. And apparently back in the day people actually bought these Rainbows specifically because of its ability to low-level format in RX50 floppy. That wasn't necessarily possible on some systems like the DEC Pro or the PDP-11. So you essentially had to buy pre-formatted floppies from DEC or buy a Rainbow and format the floppies yourself. So even if I had all the floppies in the world, I would still want this RX50 floppy drive to work and do the things that it can do. So no, I'm not getting another floppy drive. However, to diagnose the RX50, I could really benefit from the ability to run more stuff. I want to run the Rainbow Diagnostics program and maybe the CPM operating system to see if the format utility behaves the same. This brings me back to the Gotek floppy emulator. In the previous video I said that I have a Gotek, but it's broken. In fact, I can tell you right now that it's not broken at all. I based my assumption on the fact that if I gave it power, it did nothing. But once I connected it to a PC using a proper floppy cable, it sprung back to life. I've now set up the Gotek for use with the Rainbow, and I'll just recreate those steps here on camera. First of all, the floppy interface seems to be a standard Shugart interface, and the flash floppy firmware configuration mentions the RX50, so it should be supported. Next, we need to configure the flash floppy firmware on the Gotek. This is done by editing the ff.cfg file, and the required setting should be to set the interface to Shugart and the host to DEC. Now all we need is some floppy images. Most Rainbow software available on the internet are either in the TD0 format or the IMD format. The TD0 stands for Teledisk and the IMD for image disk. Flash floppy doesn't support those, since I guess it would be a bit too much work for the little processor on the Gotek, so we need to convert those files into the simpler IMG raw format. And that can be done with the help of the image disk program. So let's see how that's done in DOS. Here we have one TD0 file. Let's convert that to IMD first. So we'll use the TD0 to IMD, give it the file name, and there we go. There we have the IMD file. The next step would be to convert the IMD to a raw file. So let's use the IMDU command for that. Give it the IMD file, specify the raw file as image file, give it the switches B, E and D, and give it a go. And now we have the IMG file right there with the size of around 400 kilobytes. And now my USB stick is filled with a bunch of IMG files, including a couple of DOS images, some CPM images, and a bunch of utilities and stuff like that. So we should be ready to go. I googled around and found a forum post saying to use a straight-through 34-pin cable and it should just work. People have used two Goteks to emulate the two drives that the RX50 has, but I'm hoping one works just as well. So I have a floppy cable here, but it's not a straight-through cable. It has a twist right here. And I don't have a cable without a twist. So to get me going quickly, I made this. A small extension cable that just untwists the connections. So now I essentially have a straight-through cable. The floppy controller on the Rainbow can support two RX50 units, so there is a secondary floppy connector to put the cable in. It's a bit of a tight fit right here, especially since I have the hard drive cable sort of in the way. we go, now it's connected, and all we need to do is connect power to the Gotek. Looks like both of the power connectors here are already used up, since one is connected to the RX50 and another to the hard drive. I don't want to disconnect any of these, since I actually want to use them, so I need a splitter. I had some trouble finding one, but luckily there was one in my Microvacs that I could borrow. This is even digital branded. So there we go, all plugged in and ready to go. I'll just connect the keyboard and the display and we'll give it a go. And now the Rainbow is booted up into the main screen. Normally I would boot from either A or B to the RX50 floppy drive. So the Gotek should be either C or D. First let's select a floppy image. I'll go with DOS 3.1. So let's try booting from C. It seems to have some trouble booting for some reason. Let's reset the machine, try again, boot from C. It says loading, but it doesn't load. I think we'll try some other image. So now I have the DOS 2.05 loaded. Let's try booting from C. Okay, this one loads just fine. So for the first time ever, I've now been able to boot from something else than this DOS 2.11 floppy I have here. Let's try the Diagnostics. Okay, this is what I've been waiting to try. Now we are in the Diagnostics program. Let's test drives A and B. It says here to insert spare diskettes into drives A and B. I have unformatted floppies there, so I hope that's okay. Press return, caution, return. Okay, we have a failure at test 7. All the tests pass until the seek test. So I'm not too surprised. I feel like something like that is out of order on the RX50 here. Let's choose proceed. Maybe it does more tests. Okay, all the floppy tests have been run and seems like everything was okay up until test 7. The seek test, that's the first to fail, and every test afterwards failed. So that could be because the floppies are not formatted for RX50, or it could be an actual mechanical error that the Diagnostics was able to detect. But anyway, I'm not too surprised. I feel like there's something iffy going on with my RX50. So yeah, that's it. Let's try booting into CPM next. And there we've successfully booted into CPM 8680. And now that we're finally able to boot into CPM, I'm going to try format here on the CPM. I don't know how to use the format command here, how to do a low-level format with the CPM format, but let's just go with what we have here. Formatting B. Alright, now we get a different error. Try speed out of range. I haven't seen this. This was not the error message in the DOS, and this was not the error in the Diagnostics. But this is interesting. Drive speed out of range. Drive cannot be used for formatting. That's actually kind of promising if that is indeed the problem. And in fact, if I Google this message, drive speed out of range, I actually find a rather interesting piece of software called RFmat. So the description says RFmat is a tool to adjust the speed of the floppy drive in your DEC Rainbow 100 computer. So speed adjustment, that sounds good. Maybe the problem is the actual motor speed on my drive, and this tool could help me adjust that. So there should be a potentiometer or something on the drive that we can adjust. Use this tool to find the proper position. And on Wikipedia there's actually a really good picture of the RX50 motor speed controller. Looks like this, and here on the right we can see some kind of a potentiometer with an adjustment point right there. So maybe this one is the one we need to adjust. At least I don't find any other potentiometers that it could be. So I think this is something to try. And I also found this news group post by Roger Evie, where he mentions that the speed tolerance of the drive is not tight enough to allow the drive to format diskettes. So that sounds like my problem. If I recall correctly, you need to have the drive within 1% of the 300 RPM of the drive, but the RX50 is spec'd within 1.5. That's not a problem when reading or writing diskettes, but it doesn't work for formatting. That is very familiar. And when Digital finally released formatting software for the Rainbow, they would replace the drives that people complained about. So maybe the early ones were bad for formatting. Indeed, I have a revision A of the RX50, so that could be indeed the problem. Right there on the left side of the drive, I can see the potentiometer. It's hard to get on the picture here with the limited light that I have. Unfortunately, it looks like the potentiometer is glued in place, or rather the adjustment is stuck. So I'll have to try and break that free. Probably that makes the calibration even worse initially, but I don't see what else I can do. So now I have the drive connected and raised slightly so I can access the potentiometer from the left. So let's turn on the machine and try this utility I found. I prepared a CPM floppy with the format utility right there, so let's try booting into it. And there's the utility. Let's see, let's try running it. Enter drive to format. Let's see, I have a floppy in drive A. Let's use that. Confirm, type yes. Okay, there we are writing. The -50, that seems way off. I think we should be near 0 at least when we reach the center tracks. So around here. So that might be off by quite a bit. Okay, so now it finished formatting. I think this might be even a functional floppy right now, since it managed to format it despite the speed problem. But I think we want to adjust it so it's as close to 0 as possible. Okay, after a few attempts at the adjustment, I've managed to get it to the point where around track 39 we get very close to 0 on this second number here. So I think we should be adjusted very well. So next I will just try to format within DOS to see if we've actually fixed the problem. So let's reset. Okay, I used Gotek to boot into MS-DOS 2.11. Let's try doing a low-level format on the A drive, which has a real floppy in it. So give it the /I flag for low-level format and give it a go. It's looking pretty good. No errors yet, and I hear the drive going. So I'm very confident this has worked. This might take a while, so I'll just skip ahead. And looks like we have a success. The low-level format finished, and the format command is now asking for a volume label. So let's type something there. And let's access the A drive. Okay, this is very awesome. For the first time I've been able to format a real floppy on the RX50. So I'm really happy. Right now I could just start creating real floppies by copying stuff using the Gotek or something else. So, yep, it's looking good. Alright, I'm filming this right after this successful format, or the successful low-level format of a real floppy on the RX50. So the pot adjustment was a success. All the problem was with the speed control, and that was a pretty easy fix once we found the right program for it. So now I'll jump right into creating a couple of floppies with useful stuff in them. Of course, now I don't necessarily even need the Gotek in the system anymore. After all, I can't really fit it anywhere with the case closed. But on the other hand, the Gotek is very handy, of course, so maybe I'll find some solution to have both the real drive and the Gotek all here. And here I've ran the Diagnostics program again, and as you can see, all the tests for the RX50 are passing with flying colors. Well, one color anyway. For testing the drive, I've been using this random assortment of floppies. These have been previously used on Commodore 64, and I think many of them are not in the best shape. Been getting some errors. I think they're attributed to the floppies, not the drive itself. So I ran into the local floppy disk store and got this box of single-sided double-density soft sector floppies by 3M. The single-side, of course, is the right choice for DEC Rainbow, although double-side would work just as well. Now with the floppy stuff sorted out, drive speed fixed, all that, I'm able to create more floppies and run all kinds of software very easily. Next thing would be to start looking into the hard drive, which I have here. I think this is a 5 megabyte drive, and it seems to be running here just fine. I just haven't been able to access it. So when I boot into DOS, I always get this message, there are no MS-DOS partitions on the hard disk. So that might mean that the hard disk is working, it just can't find anything in it. But now, since I can run all kinds of stuff, maybe I should look into the hard drive utility. But here's the problem with the utility. I've now swapped the disks, so I have the wutil here. This is the standard utility, or this is the third-party utility that's most preferred for configuring the hard drive. If I try to run it, I get a message, not enough memory. So that's a bit disappointing. I, of course, only have 128K memory here, which is, well, it's not so strange on the Rainbows. I'm kind of surprised that the utility is such an essential utility that it doesn't work here. But of course, then there's another utility, I think the more official utility, which we should try next. But it also occurred to me, why not just try this in CP/M? So I already tried this before, I'll just show it here again. Now that I can actually boot into CP/M, why not just try accessing the drive? So the hard drive should be E, and there we go. Let's do a directory listing. And wow, there is a lot of stuff on the hard drive. Well, a lot of files anyway. And it all seems kind of strange. I don't recognize anything here. There is some Finnish file name right there. So this could mean that this Rainbow has originally been used right here in Finland for something. Maybe some business. So there's ajokirja, that could be some kind of diary for drivers or something like that. So some kind of a business software or data is certainly stored in here. So now I want to shift my efforts to this hard drive and just do everything I can to dump the contents of this hard drive, save whatever is in here and examine it. So I don't know yet how to do it. Maybe I'll write some small tool to do raw reads on the drive itself, or maybe I'll just use the CP/M backup tools or whatever to copy the files. But I think I want the raw image of this hard drive to save any bootloader code or backup partitions or anything like that. So I'll have to look into that. Well, this here will be the end of this video. I got the RX50 all fixed up. Really happy about that. The RX50 really is an important part of this machine. It just wouldn't be the same without it. So I'm now able to run all kinds of software on it with the help of the RX50, the Gotek and the serial connection. So I'm going to be working on a lot of stuff from now on. I think next, of course, the hard drive, which we saw a sneak peek of. That will be really interesting, trying to image the contents of that. But anyway, I think that's it for now. So thanks for watching. See you next time.